introduce our active health manager, Shona, who's going to do a little session with us, and I'll be back to do a little bit more around actual what workplace wellbeing is. So if you could introduce, welcome Shona, thank you.
So welcome along. As I say, my name is Shona. I am here to do a wee bit of active health. Don't panic too much. It's not going to be too severe. I know you had a fairly big night out last night. So what I'm going to do is just a wee bit of seated mobility that you can do. So if you're sitting at your desk for long periods of time, which let's face it, we all do, it can get a bit traumatic for the body. So it's good just to take those few moments of break. So it's just a few simple things that you can do. So first of all, just kind of shuffle about in your seat. Sit up a wee bit more. Sort of feel yourself sitting up. Maybe uncross your legs if you've got your legs crossed. Feel yourself sitting down through your seat bones and grow a few inches. Lengthen your spine a wee bit. Think about just taking a big breath in and then a big breath out. Just sigh out. So big breath in through the nose and just sigh out through the mouth. Two more of them. Big breath in, sigh out. One last one. And then we're going to start off in our head. So I want you to, first of all, just drop your ear down and then just turn your chin towards your shoulder and just feel that stretch up through the side of your neck. And then bring it back round and then take it back up. And then take the other side down. This is my tight side. So you'll all have a tight side and a wee bit of a looser side. Take it down and then just turn it round. So again, you tend to sit when you're at computers or desks, you get a bit hunched in the upper back, come back up, do that one more time each side. This is really good just to lengthen. You can take that other arm away a wee bit if you want to increase your stretch a bit. And then bring it back up and then take it down. So just about moving slowly, just opening up, take that hand away, turn it round, and then come up. So what I want you to do is take your hand onto your shoulder. You want to give it a bit of a massage. So have a bit of a squeeze. Get quite hard. If you need to help, your elbow up, and then roll that round. Now you might get a bit of creaking and cracking. Be aware. Yeah? Just notice it. It's good just to keep massaging it, keep rubbing it when you're doing it. And then release it, and then take the other side. And again, you're probably going to have a side, maybe, if you're at a desk and you've got a mouse hand, or, I mean, there's probably much more technical things that you guys are well aware of other than me, but, you know, I'm more old school. So just have a bit of a creak and a crack round, okay. So now take your arms up, stretch them up, as high as you can. Lift your shoulders up, and then I want you to, when you exhale, pull your shoulder blades down. So imagine your shoulder blades are here and they're pulling down here. So you're squeezing them down. Reach them up, and then pull them down. One more time, reach them up, and then pull them down. Now, as long as you're not going to elbow the person next to you, Friday morning fights. So maybe someone go a bit forward, someone go a bit back. Come up and then just start to turn. Keep your seat bones down, and just twist. Just open and twist round. So you're pulling your shoulder blades back, you're pinching them in at the back, you're tucking your chin in slightly, and you're pushing your hands into the back of your head. And then just have a wee bit of a shake off. Now, one hand down on the side of your seat, one hand up, and then reach over. But I want you to push into your other seat bone. So we tend to fall over and collapse. Push down, and then really lengthen up. And then change that over. So other hand down, reach up. So think how far apart can I get my hands. Push into your seat bone, reach over, twist. Are we feeling any creaks and cracks yet? Come back. Then bring your hands onto your knees. So lean forward. We're all far enough apart. I think we're not going to end up in someone's back here. And I want you just to arch up. So you're just going to arch up like a cat. And then you're just going to lower down. So you're lowering your back. You're kind of rolling up through your back, tucking your chin in. And then you're dropping down, lifting your chin. A couple more of them. So again, really, really good for the back. One more. And then release. So stand up. And then sit down again. So just literally stand up, sit down. You all panicked there that I was going to get you to do weird and wonderful things. So you're seated down. So hopefully when you sat down there, you kind of sat a bit more upright than you did when you first came in this morning. Yeah? So there's a few minutes. We're going to do a couple of wee breathing things now, but that's just a few simple things that if you're at your desk, you can just take a minute or two out. You don't need to do it for 5 minutes. You take a minute or two out, do a few of them. It's just about resetting yourself usually. So it's like you sit and you end up like this. So even just that stand up, sit down, a few rotations, a few lengthenings, a few openings, and you're going to feel a lot better. So when you feel a bit stressed, as we all do at times, the brain's going a bit all over the place, sometimes just taking that moment out just to focus on something else will help you reset. So we're just going to do a couple minutes of what we call square breath. It's called box breath. Basically what it is you're going to inhale for 4 counts, you're going to hold your breath for 4 counts, you're going to exhale for 4 counts, and then you're going to hold for 4 counts. We're not going to increase it at all. We're going to stick with 4 because if we had a big night out, that might push us if we start going higher. So you're just, first of all, just take a big deep breath into the nose and then breathe out. We're just breathing in and out through the nose. So think about counting. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 2, 3, 4. Keep it going. Inhale. You do it in your own timing. So if your count's slightly different, that's fine. You do the hold, and then you do the exhale, and then you do the hold. We'll do one more. Nice and calm, filling up the lungs, holding it, relaxing down through the shoulders, exhaling down and hold the retention. So really, really simple way. By adding in your count, you're taking your mind to something else and you're removing what your mind was thinking about before. Yeah? So you're kind of just resetting yourself, you're starting afresh. You can see you don't have to do it for long. Hopefully you feel a wee bit calmer from it. There's lots and lots of different things you can do with breath that can literally be a minute or 2. So wee bit of mobility, wee bit standing up, sitting down, wee bit of twisting, wee bit lengthening, wee bit of breath. No one needs to know you're doing it. You can sit here, no one will know. So there's just a few snippets of things that you can do, you can take away with you and hopefully make your working day a wee bit calmer, a wee bit better for your body and ultimately a wee bit better for your health long term. So thank you very much for participating and enjoy the rest of your day. And back over to Kevin now again. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Iron Brew and Dairy Milk.
Thank you, Shona. That was great. I wasn't out last night and I struggled with the breathing, so I don't know how you guys are doing, so well done if you managed that. So, you'll be glad to hear on your last day, I'm not going to kill you with PowerPoint. I just want to give you a bit of an overview around workplace wellbeing, what we do at Strathclyde, but also some things that maybe you can take away, some things to help you. And then we're going to have a session afterwards about men's health as well, because I'm very aware that your industry is very male-orientated. I know you're doing great steps at the moment to kind of try and change that, but the reality is it is a very male-orientated industry that you work in, and men's health is really, really important. So we'll talk about that towards the end. So a little very quick bit about me. So I started my career in social services and I worked in mental health. I worked in Glasgow and London, and I finished sort of that era of my career working with offenders, high tariff offenders in London actually. Really, really intense workloads, risk management at its really most risky, if you like. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I got made redundant and I thought my world was over. I'd moved from Glasgow to London to retrain, to start a kind of new career, and it ended because of government cuts and things like that. So I came back to Glasgow. I thought, what am I going to do? And I started reflecting, and I realised that I was so close to burnout that I was really, really close to being seriously unwell, but I didn't even realise it. And it started me to think around, why do employers not support employees? Why are we not talking about this? Why are we not looking after our staff? Why are we allowing staff to get to a point where they're nearly at serious, serious burnout? So I retrained in health and safety and wellbeing, and here I am today. I worked in private industry for 11 years, and the job came up here at Strathclyde. Strathclyde were, and I think still are, the first university in Scotland to employ a dedicated staff wellbeing manager, which shows you where Strathclyde are at in terms of their care for colleagues, really. So I've been here for nearly 3 years now, a lot of work to do, but it's really rewarding and I'm loving it. And Strathclyde certainly do put their money where their mouth is in terms of resources for how we look after our staff. You get it, which is great. So, why does wellbeing at work matter? Well, it matters because we matter. This is a bit of a sobering statistic, but we spend about a third of our waking life at work. And that's maybe not what you want to hear when you've got a hangover if you've been out the night before, but it is true. So we need to get it right. Employers need to get it right. Successful organisations care about their people, and colleagues need to come first. And if we want them to develop and flourish, we need to think about wellbeing. It's also so colleagues can be their authentic selves and bring their whole selves to work every day. And research shows us that colleagues have asked for it. It's a needs-led approach. It can be a key factor in determining our organisation's long-term success. It's a core enabler of employee engagement, and it creates an environment where people can flourish, allowing them to be bold, ambitious and innovative. And here at Strathclyde, we talk a lot about being socially progressive. We've got that ethos, and wellbeing fits into that really nicely. And it's distinctive as well. You'll be surprised how many organisations don't think or talk about wellbeing for their staff. And if you do, then your employer is getting it and gets it right. So that's the why. I always like to start with the why. Why do we think about wellbeing? But what is it? What is workplace wellbeing? So what I want you to do is just turn to the person next to you and just smile, say hello. There you go. So lots of smiles, lots of laughter. That's good. All I said was turn and say hello, say hi. So you made a connection there, which is brilliant. That's what we want. And on a very base level, that's what wellbeing's about. It's about making those connections. It's about feeling that sense of belonging. A few things actually happened there. Your serotonin levels went up, your dopamine levels went up, which is just happens when you interact with other people. So yes, there's a whole load of theory about wellbeing, and I'm not going to bore you about that today, but at a very, very base level, it's about that sense of connection and belonging. And that sometimes gets lost in a workplace because you think you just turn up to work to go to work. And some people do, and that's absolutely fine. But if you can foster that sense of belonging in your workplace, that you actually do belong and you feel part of it, it's going to increase your well-being. There's lots of research around well-being and belonging, looking at how it can reduce absenteeism if people feel they belong. It can reduce sickness. It's really, really powerful. So I've got a lovely video to show you. It's only a couple of minutes long. It was made by our friends at Scottish Water, but it's actually, it fits nicely with the higher education sector actually in terms of our staff groups as well. So I'll let you watch that and I'll come back to you.
It's easy to put people into boxes, to label people. There's us, and there's them. There's the ops guys, those that work in the field. Then there's the office workers, the real coffee brigade, the bosses, the engineers, and their alliance partners. We all form impressions about others, and can be quick to make judgments, perhaps based on the directorate they work in, the way they look, or their gender. Well, I'm going to ask you some questions today. Some are fun, and some you may feel are personal, but I hope you answer honestly. So let's begin. Who here owns a pet? Who has a tattoo? suddenly, there's us. We who are carers. We who are religious. We who have served in the armed forces. We who have cried at work. We, the lucky ones, who have best friends or family at work. We who have felt lonely in the past week. We who struggle with anxiety. There's us who were bullied as a child. We who live with a disability or a long-term health condition. We who are lesbian, gay, bisexual or transgender. And there's us, whose life has been impacted by mental illness. We who have saved a life. And we who are always first to the dance floor. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Belonging is feeling comfortable to dance like no one is watching.
I have to give credit to our colleagues at Scottish Water for that, but it is a lovely video. I think what's really interesting is that most people got up when he said anybody who's experienced mental health issues. It's an epidemic in all our workplaces in our world. And as an employer, we here at Strathclyde, we're trying really hard to focus on that as one of our strategic priorities. But going back to the video, we are all connected. So you start to understand, I think there's a lovely line in there about we were them and now we're we. And so it's about how we make that work in terms of a workplace setting, because the research tells us if we can feel a sense of belonging, our well-being is going to be increased. So how do we make it work? Well, the challenge is with your leadership. It's got to come from the top down. If well-being isn't part of our senior governance, our court, our senates, our executive teams, it won't filter down to our faculties and departments or our ever crucial, more crucially, workforce. I used to not like a pyramid model because I felt that the workforce was at the bottom. But actually, if you flip it and think about it, it's the wider part and it's the foundation. So the workforce are the foundation. So it's important that we have that top-down approach. When you think about well-being, you might think about events like this, where you'll talk to people, you'll have sessions like Shona did, which are fantastic. And we do that, and I know a lot of your organisations will do that too. But that can't be all that it's about. We have to think about training and support, particularly training for our managers. We have to train our managers to support. And policies and procedures often get forgotten about. We work in higher education, most of us. We're very policy and procedural driven organisations. We have to make sure that well-being is woven throughout that. So part of my role is to work really closely with our policy makers and making sure we've got well-being touch points at everything we do. Another key driver, or another way that we know well-being is going to work, is to make sure we're looking at it from a research-based point of view. So at Strathclyde, we've aligned ourselves with 5 key drivers of workplace well-being. The first one is health. Second one is relationships, security, environment and purpose. So these are the 5 proven drivers of workplace wellbeing. So everything we do around wellbeing here at Strathclyde is based around those 5 areas. And the way that we try and implement them is through our, we do department wellbeing reviews. So we'll go out into a department and we will kind of challenge those 5 areas, assess where the department's at, give them an action plan that they can look at, and that's one of the things that we're leading on here at Strathclyde. But there are challenges to success, and that is making sure it's not a tick box exercise, and that happens a lot, but that gets mitigated if your senior team are involved. How do we measure success? Measuring well-being is so difficult. What well-being means to me is drastically different to what it means to somebody else. So that's a challenge, that is a big challenge. And we've got large organisational issues, faculties who work in silos, we've got off-campus sites. How do we make sure that they are getting the wellbeing message? Culture is an issue as well. People think it's not my problem, it's somebody else's problem, it's senior management's problem, but we're all responsible for wellbeing. Communication is difficult as well within big organisations, and again, supporting your managers to support. And that culture piece around it's not my responsibility is actually key. Yes, as organisations, we've got responsibility to look after our colleagues, but we've also got responsibility to look after ourselves. So supporting your own wellbeing is crucial and key. So again, some research that we've looked at here at Strathclyde is 5 ways to wellbeing, and we kind of promote this throughout our faculties. So the first one is learn new skills. Research tells us if you're learning all the time, you're going to be increasing your well-being. Pay attention to the present moment. So that's stuff like mindfulness and things like Shona did there about the breathing exercises, making that part of your day. Connecting with people, how do we do that belonging piece? How do we make that work in our organisations? And then be physically active. It's really crucial. And give to others. You get a great sense of well-being back when you give to others. So we've got a volunteer policy here at Strathclyde. We allow colleagues to have 2 days volunteering, and we encourage them to do that. We also talk a lot about wellbeing values. So very simply, 2 things that you can challenge yourself every day to do, and that is we care for our own wellbeing every day and we care for our colleagues' wellbeing every day. Really simple, but actually we forget to do it sometimes, particularly the whole bit about caring about your own wellbeing. We need to look after ourselves. So I spoke a little bit about what does success look like. So yeah, we've got KPIs around sickness absence and referrals to occupational health, uptake of training, the usual sort of a measuring tools that you would use that when we look at things like wellbeing, but it is tough. We're starting to look at measuring wellbeing through a lens of care, so a culture of care. Yeah, that wasn't as slick as I'd like it to have been. So basically, starting to look at wellbeing through, do people feel that when they work here at Strathclyde that they're cared for, that they're looked after, that our systems, our procedures, our policies, our colleague journey is all done through the lens of a culture of care. So I've got one final really short video to show you about what culture of care means here at Strathclyde.
Discoveries that save lives. Technologies to sustain future generations. Research that changes the world. Strathclyde is known for innovating. A world-leading university deserves a world-leading strategy for safety, well-being and resilience. The biggest innovations start with the smallest step. We're bringing health and safety into the 21st century, an update for our modern university that peels back red tape, prioritises people over process and spreads the power. At Strathclyde, we're creating an innovative culture of care where everyone takes responsibility for keeping us safe, secure and supported. It's not just the job of one department. It's not someone else's problem. Leaders, cleaners, groundskeepers, academics, whoever you are, it starts with you. We're building up safety, well-being and resilience. It's what we do. This means compassion, not checkboxes. Efficiency, not fuss. Benefit, not bureaucracy. And puts power in your hands. What does it mean in practice? Put safety, well-being and resilience on the agenda with your team. Understand what training you need to do your role. Instead of walking past a fire door that shouldn't be open, close it and take steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. Make space and time to check in with colleagues who need a hand. Make it second nature. It's part of our day-to-day. Try out new things, learn from mistakes, and lead by example. With culture of care, we are making the University of Strathclyde a safe and caring workplace that makes us all feel proud.
So that's obviously a look more at our wider strategy, because I'm based within the Safety, Wellbeing and Resilience Directorate here at Strathclyde, and I look after wellbeing obviously. But the culture of care ethos covers everything we do, from health and safety, resilience, and obviously wellbeing. So the bit that I would take away from that video is that screenshot there, just make space and time to check in with colleagues who need a hand. So powerful and often forgotten about when we're all so busy. So I'm going to move on now. As I mentioned earlier, it's a very predominantly male industry that you all work in. And we know that the statistics tell us that men are less likely to go to their GP, higher risk of suicide, and 43% are more likely to die from cancer than women. So some really horrible stats. And we recognise that here at Strathclyde, and we run events specifically we do events for women, we do events for men, we do mental health events. And we ran a men's mental health event last year, and we had a couple of colleagues come and talk about their lived experience of cancer. And one of them's here today, and he's a colleague of yours, and he's going to come now and give you his own personal experience of his journey through his health issues. So I'll introduce you to Bruce, who I'm sure you all know.
That's the slide I used yesterday to introduce myself. Today's going to be a very different presentation. It's going to be a very personal presentation to me, so I hope I can hold it together. Where's my slide going? Yeah. Prostate cancer. And we can lose the slides now. You know who I am. Prostate cancer is one that's in the press just now. You've all seen the Chris Hoy stuff. It's a men's cancer. Prostate's down there somewhere. It's one of these cancers below the waist that nobody talks about. The session that Kevin mentioned there we did was on prostate cancer and testicular cancer. And 1 in 8 men are going to get prostate cancer. Sorry, 1 in 8 men will know that they have prostate cancer. The rate's probably quite a lot higher than that. There's various demographics. If you're a black man, it's 1 in 4. If you have a family history of prostate cancer, it's much higher. And it's had a press as being one of the less serious cancers, if there is such a thing, because it can be a very slow-growing cancer. There's a statistic that they say you're more likely to die with prostate cancer than of prostate cancer. It's a slow-growing thing. Try telling that to Chris Hoy. I'm one of the lucky guys. I'm 60. I was 60 a few months ago. When I was 58, almost exactly 2 years ago, I went to my GP for something completely unrelated. And they did the MOT, they did the blood tests, and they said, your PSA is a little bit high. And now my PSA had been monitored. I've got a family history of prostate cancer, my father suffers. And I was thinking, what's PSA? Because we hear this thing, PSA, keep coming up when we talk about prostate cancer. PSA is the prostate-specific antigen. It's an enzyme produced by your prostate, and put very basically, it makes more of this stuff when it's not happy. So a raised level of PSA can be an indicator of prostate cancer. It's not necessarily, and it's not a definite marker. There's other things can raise your PSA. It can be raised by infection. It can be raised by antibiotics. It can be raised by certain types of exercise. Cycling can raise your PSA. Lots of sex can raise your PSA. And I thought, that explains it. Because I do a lot of cycling. No, my PSA, the level at which the doctors start to get interested is when it gets to 3. It used to be 4, it's now 3. And mine had risen from 2 and a bit to 3.1. They said, it's not particularly, it's a blood test, it's not invasive, it's not the rubber glove test that everybody worries about, everybody talks about. They don't often do that. They certainly don't do that as a first round test. People will get worried about that. It's not as bad as it sounds. So the doctor actually did the rubber glove test. The DRE, as it's called, the digital rectal examination. For those of you that work in learning technologies, this is not the digital examinations that you're familiar with. This is very analogue. And it, again, is not a good test. It's uncomfortable, it's embarrassing, whatever, but it's over and done in 2 minutes. But it's not particularly accurate sometimes. Because think about what they're doing. They're putting a finger in a very intimate place. They're feeling through your bowel wall to feel your prostate. And they're looking for lumps. Now, they can only feel one side of it. And they're quite a distance away as well. So if the tumour's small, if the tumour's at the back of the prostate, they may not detect it. And the conclusion coming back from my results were, your PSA is up a little, and well, we think there might be something here, but we're not really sure. It's probably not. You'll be fine. We'll send you for another test. The next test they sent me to was an MRI scan at the hospital. Well, actually, in a van in the hospital car park. And it's non-invasive. It's like sitting inside a washing machine for half an hour. And take a nice photo of your insides. And I'm reading reading Dr. Google on this one. And Dr. Google was saying to me, you'll be fine, Bruce. Look at the stats on this. 80% of the people that go for this, it's nothing. It's benign. There's nothing to worry about. I was one of the 20%. They sent me another letter through saying, we found something that's of concern. We want to do some more tests. A biopsy. Again, it's invasive. It's an hour in hospital. They sort it out. And a month later, I got the letter from the hospital saying, can you come down for an appointment? And immediately I'm thinking, this is bad news. If it'd been good news, they would have phoned me. But they want me and my wife to come down and have the appointment at the hospital. And I met the specialist nurse there, specialist cancer nurse, who was fantastic people. Far better than the consultants in their caring and time they can give with you. And they gave me, it's one thing, I'll get good news, I'll get bad news. The bad news, of course, is you've got cancer. We've done this biopsy, we've detected abnormal cells in the sample, you've got prostate cancer. The good news, and there were 2 bits of good news. The good news was, first of all, it was contained to the prostate. It was completely inside the prostate. It hadn't spread, and that's the big news. Because prostate, if you look at the Chris Hoy story, his cancer started in the prostate, but it's spread to other parts of his body, into his bones, into his lungs, whatever. It hadn't spread, and also it was very, very early stage, so very, very treatable. They talk about doing a biopsy, and I think of that as they go inside you via some sort of tortuous route, a big needle thing, and they take a sample and they take it away and analyse it. They actually took 14 samples because they've done the MRI scan. They've got a 3D map of your insides, and they can target the bit they think is bad. They take a sample from there. Then they take more samples round about it. And the 2 samples that they took from the core of it, they were bad, but the surrounding samples were fine. They were clear. So it had been caught very early. I had no symptoms at all. Usual symptoms of prostate cancer, problems with your waterworks. That's the main one, actually. They say anyone over 50, any man over 50 or any man in a high-risk situation, family history, speak to your GP, get the PSA test. It's definitely worth doing. So they sent me home, a bit shaken. Getting told you get cancer it's a kick in the guts. They said, well, we'll have the case conference with all the specialists, the oncologists, the surgeons, the various cancer specialists, the medic people, and we'll come back to you with your options. So another month to wait. Every stage in this process took a month. And they said, right, there's 4 possible treatments for you. This one's not a good one for you. This one's not a good one for you because of the location of the cancer. You've got basically 2 options. You can have a combination of hormone treatment and radiotherapy. The idea here is, so prostate cancer thrives on testosterone. So what they do is they give you medication to suppress your testosterone for 8 weeks. Gives you a mini menopause. You get hot flushes, guys. That shrinks the tumour, and then they can blast it with the radio. Or the other option is surgery, where they basically remove your prostate. And they said to me, which one do you want? Me? I don't know. So you go and you ask Dr. Google and you talk to various people, and they say, we can't tell you which one to go. They're both good treatments. We can let you talk to each of the surgeons, each of the departments. They've both got the same outcomes. They've both got slightly different treatment paths, but the same percentages at the end of the day. I'm a scientist. Well, years ago, I used to be a scientist. And I look at evidence, make evidence-led decisions. So I thought, right, I'll go and do all the homework. I'll make the right decision for me based on the stats. That's the logical side of the brain talking to you. But there's the real side of you as well, the illogical, the human side is screaming at the back of my head, just get the bastard cut out. Fortunately, in this case, both of these sides of the brain actually agreed. And when I told the specialist that I felt that the surgery was the right solution for me, they said, good decision. You're on the waiting list for prostate surgery. Keyhole surgery. They don't tell you how big the key is, but that's another story. I'm joking about it. It's actually incredibly. I'll come on to that bit in a second. They put me on the waiting list for surgery. Referred me to the main centre in Glasgow. I'd been dealing with a regional hospital down in Ayrshire, but the surgery is done in Glasgow. And what did they say? They said, you're on the waiting list. It's a long waiting list. You could be on this waiting list for months, you know. You're not a priority. I thought, what do you mean I'm not a priority? Of course I'm a priority. And then I thought, you know, when it comes to cancer treatment, not being a priority is actually a really good thing. There's other people who are much worse off than you are. So, on the waiting list, apologies to my colleagues I was working with at that time. My head was somewhere else. I was a grumpy bastard. Nothing unusual there, I hear you say. I took some time off at that point. Loads of annual leave to use, try to work 3-day weeks and whatever, waiting for this surgery date. Then one day they phoned me on a Wednesday afternoon it was. Bruce, what are you doing on Saturday? So, Saturday morning, 7 o'clock, I checked in for 2 nights bed and breakfast at the hospital down the road. So, do we all know where prostate is? Because I know, I was never really sure where it was or what it was. I know its job is to do with the stuff at the front. And I know that when you get that examination that everyone talks about, you know, that's round the back, isn't it? But I had surgery. And I ended up with scars on my belly button. Where is this bloody prostate? I know exactly where mine is now. It's in a jar at the Surgeon General. The keyhole surgery went very well. They operated on me on the Saturday afternoon. On the Monday morning, I walked out of hospital carrying my own bag. The NHS leaflet said, you can expect to be off work for 4 to 6 weeks. I mentioned this to the prostate nurses, and they laughed. They could not stop laughing. They said, double it at least. That would have taken me till Christmas, 18 months ago. I didn't make it back for Christmas. I was another 2 months off, unwell. And that wasn't a physical thing. That was family situation. My father was very ill at the time, and I wasn't back fully on my feet. But then a phase return, and here I am telling you about it. So the message, if you've got a prostate, guys, if you've got a prostate, every deal with it. Get it. If you're in that high-risk group, 50 or above, family history, speak to your GP, get a test, it's just a blood test. If you're part of the half of the population that don't have a prostate, tell the ones you love to get themselves checked. If you don't love MD, tell somebody you don't love. Just tell people. I don't know where I'm going with this. I didn't know if I'd be able to hold it together. I think I've said enough, Kevin. Very personal story. If MD wants to talk to me about this stuff. I've now got a new cycling sponsor. As you can see from the Prostate Scotland is a local charity who did great things. Again, I'll talk about this for a second. I went to the various treatments, saw the various nurses, and of course they give you all the leaflets. And one was on a course on living well with prostate cancer. And I did what every guy would do with that leaflet. I stuck it in the drawer. And then, actually, the week after, 2 weeks after I'd had the all clear, and everything's great. I'm actually back at the hospital because my dad was unwell at the time, and I spoke to the same nurse. And she said, "Did you go in that course?" And I said to her, "No, I didn't go to it. I just put the leaflet in the drawer." And I burst into tears. It's just the pressure, the stress of it all, it just got to me. And the nurse said to me, "It's a 6-week course, 6 afternoons. I do week 2 and I do week 6. I expect to see you there." For the Scots amongst us, she came from Cumnock. You don't argue with her. So I went to that, and that was organised jointly by NHS and Prostate Scotland. They're incredible people. The support network that they've got. They're a charity that focus on supporting people with cancer rather than the Prostate UK, which is supporting the research on the cancer. And I will be riding for them in the Chris Hoy cycle in September. Leaving from Glasgow, finishing Glasgow, and going up lots of hills in between. So, thank you, everyone. Okay.
Thank you so much, Bruce. So powerful, and it just takes a lot of guts to do that, and I really appreciate Bruce doing that. So hopefully you maybe got something from that. If it's just going, talking to your GP, then amazing, please do that. So that's us done. You'll be glad to hear with your wellbeing session. I hope it was useful. Thank you so much for coming. I'm always up for collaboration. Strathclyde are very much about collaboration. So if you've got any colleagues who are looking to maybe collaborate on some wellbeing activity or whatever, give them my details. Any of the contacts you've got, it's just kevin.donovan@strath.ac.uk. But thank you. Cheers. Thank you so much.
Do you mind taking questions?
Sure, yeah, of course.
We've just got a couple of minutes for questions, if you want to pose anything to Kevin while he's here. Oh, and Bruce too, so there we are.
Now that I've managed to hold it together.
Any questions? Oh,
Dipesh has got a... We'll launch the catch box.
Here we go. There we go. There we go, sir.
Cheers.
I wondered what that was. Now I know.
Thanks for talks, guys. Really interesting. I have a wellbeing question. So, has the university implemented or tried to implement wellness days or wellbeing days? And if so, how's it been received?
Yeah. So before I started, actually, that was all they did. They did a wellbeing week. So one of the challenges with that is that it gets left behind during that week or that day. So what I've tried to do is make sure it's more of a focus throughout the whole year. And the challenges with big universities like this is, I presume you work for a university, I'm not sure, we do tend to work in silos. The faculties, the departments, the schools kind of do their own thing as well. So a university-wide initiative or day is great, but it doesn't always land everywhere. So one of the things that we are trying to do is make it a bit more bespoke for, make a network of wellbeing champions throughout all our areas, and they can still do their own thing, but they'll be able to link into university-wide stuff. So yes, the answer is yes, we still do events and days, but we try and make sure that it's just spread throughout the year rather than just a focus on one day or 1 week. But they are really well received, yeah, very much.
So just to follow up, do you also have tacked onto like an annual leave thing, like people can take wellbeing days as part of their leave?
So we don't have wellbeing days, but we have like volunteer days. We give our carers, we've got a carers group, they can get 5 days extra annual leave. So we're very proactive in terms of how we support our colleagues with being as flexible as we can, really, and recognising that we've all got lives outside of work, and how do we support that as an employer. So, yeah. Good, thank you. Any other questions? Anything for Bruce? Anything about...
No, I'm not going to show you my scars.
Yeah. Stunned you into silence. Yeah. Excellent. No. Thank you.
Thank you,
Pleasure.
everyone.
Cheers. Thank you.
We're going to move on now to our panel discussion, which is going to following on from a topic that was launched back, I would say, around about the Live 2023 event, which came off the back of a thread that was running on our mailing list. And the topic of conversation was about AV strategy. So we're going to have a panel discussion now about AV strategy and end-user engagement. Matt's going to host that. And actually, Matt, I'll let you welcome your guests.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dave. It feels very unimportant after what we've just spoken about. So yeah, thank you to Kevin and Bruce from me for sharing that. It's great. So as Dave mentioned, we have got a great panel joining us today. So Greg, Annika, and Campbell, if you'd like to come join me up on stage. So as Dave mentioned, we're continuing the conversation about AV strategy. For those of you who haven't been part of that conversation so far or seen what we've been doing about it, we first started talking about it back in 2023, and we picked that up again a few weeks ago on a webinar, which many of you I know were on. For those of you who weren't, we have shared the recording out on the mailing list, so please do go back and check that out. But if I just start off with a quick summary of where we got to, and then we'll kind of move forward. So we've been kindly joined on both of those sessions by Gary Keane from UAL. And Gary shared his kind of work that he's doing at UAL, as well as a lot of his previous experience from working at Google. And Gary's kind of main starting point, really, for all of us is when we're looking and thinking about AV strategy is to ask ourselves, really, why are we here? What service and value do we provide to our users and our customers? Got into some really interesting points on the webinar about AV strategy sitting at the intersection of our institution's learning, estates, and technology strategies and how it straddles all three. And Gary's done some great work with Annika and some other colleagues as well around building a governance board at UAL and helping to kind of look at about 6 to 3 years ahead, focusing on user interviews, stakeholder engagement to drive thinking and initiatives on how they're going to use their space and technology going forward. And I think the heart of that conversation and how we summarised it towards the end was it's just a reflection of how critical it is to engage with end users and stakeholders. And I think that's the next point in our conversation, which is what we're going to focus on today. So I'd like to introduce my panel of esteemed guests. I'd like to let them introduce themselves. So Greg, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm Greg. I wear a number of hats, but I'm here as part of my consulting practice, Greg Jeffries Consulting. Very happy to be working with LTSMG as an associate sponsor to support these kinds of discussions and debate. My consulting practice is not a regular AV consulting practice. It's specialist in strategy, of course, standards, my background, because I've been heavily involved with the leadership of AVIXA and the leadership and the writing of standards. We're currently writing a standard user experience design for AV, which hopefully everyone here will, and that will that really will kind of loop into the kind of conversations that we have here. I originally worked for Gary. He was my consultant at Google when I was doing various consulting projects at Google. But I now work with UAL, and I sit on the AV strategy panel, governance panel. We're currently doing some strategy exercises which are being facilitated by Matt from the great team at HughShot. So big shout out to HughShot for the work that they do at UAL. And yeah, so that's really kind of my locus and reason for being here.
Lovely. Thank you, Greg.
Hi everyone, my name's Annika, so I'm one of the senior delivery managers at UAL. So I specifically focus on the AV projects at UAL, so I work very closely with Gary, who you're all familiar with. I look after like the big AV projects that are happening across all of our colleges. So yeah.
I'm Campbell Jameson, the big pest that's been up here a lot and talked a lot. As most of you will know me, I'm in charge of the audiovisual and the learning spaces at University of Strathclyde. I look after a lot of different spaces, of different genres of spaces, from faculty spaces, central pool teaching, and development spaces, as most of you saw when you did your walk around. So I have quite a big portfolio to try and look after. Hopefully what I can bring to this panel will be a different viewpoint on what we do at Strathclyde, and hopefully the pitfalls and the good parts of the things that we've done here we can add into this. So looking forward to this one.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So we're going to have a bit of a conversation, and then we'll throw open to Q&A at the end. So if you've got any questions, keep thinking them throughout. So first, Greg, if I can come to you first. We've got to the point where we all know end user engagement is absolutely critical. But what next? Where do we go from here? What do we need to do in speaking with our end users?
Well, the thing I'd like to say, at the front end of that is how important this strategy thing is. I think the discussions, the incredible discussions that we've had here over the last couple of days really kind of underline, how important it is. And I also have to say, sort of with one foot in and one foot out, how important I think it is for the LTSMG members as a professional thing. AV is important. We had these talking about AV over IT and how complicated it is, and actually I was personally relieved to find out how complicated it is for other people too. But thinking about that, it really kind of underlines how important AV is, because although of course it's important that the IT works, what all it's doing is making the AV stuff work. And what's unique about AV is that we're the people who turn those digital noughts and zeros that come through the wireless or come through the RJ45 into an actual experience for the teaching staff and for the students. So I think that having strategy and engaging with this actually gives technology managers the chance to engage with senior management and get taken really much more importantly. So I think, like I say, I think the actual importance of it is really important. How many importance can you fit into one sentence? Moving swiftly on. But I think, the thing is that whenever you start to think about these things, you always kind of want to go to the end goal and to kind of do the grand unified theory of everything. And Pete and I were talking about this thing early on, and I think that you've got a very basic thing of it. In our lives, we've got our working lives. We've got important things. We've got urgent things. Unfortunately, we spend most of our time doing the urgent things, and this is important. So it is important. But I think as we kind of get into the wider conversation, I think like I say, it's tempting to think, well, you know, there's some sort of shining prize called, you might call a strategy or whatever at the end of it, but the really important thing is the process that you go to, because it's not just the you know, it's not just, if you like, the product that you get, it's the engagement and the processes that you go to do it. And I think that, you know, one of the things that, you know, Campbell is going to, you know, because I'm talking at high level here, and Campbell is going to talk about, you know, how difficult it is, and, you know, and all of the obstacles that there are to it. And so, you know, the strategies to get to strategy, you know, involve, you know, breaking it down into the component parts, like this kind of granular, disaggregated approach. But it will be different for everyone else. So I don't know if that kind of gets the thing going.
Yeah, it does, definitely. And I think the key thing there, I think for me, is process and the journey that you're embarking on. And Annika, the work that you're doing at UAL, I know you're doing a lot of it in user engagement. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's working and what you're kind of doing there?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to focus on an example that we're working on for our new build in Elephant and Castle for London College of Communication. So we've got a new build that's going up in a couple of years' time. So Gary and I saw an opportunity to work with the AV team there to look at what spec do we need for the types of rooms that they've got in that building. And at present, I don't know how much you know about UAL, but we've got different campuses for different colleges across London, and there isn't one set AV standard. So it's really nice to see Strathclyde, where you guys have a set AV standard, but we don't have that. So we've been working with Hugh Sharp a great deal, and Matt, again, has been amazing working with us on a set of prototype rooms. So this summer, we're going to do 4 prototype rooms in the current Elephant and Castle building. And then once we've done the installation, we're going to work with Adam Banks, who's a UX consultant, and then over a 6-month period from September, who'll work with the main academics that actually use those spaces. And the way he'll approach that is he'll do a one-to-one conversation with them and find out their exact experience of how they found teaching in that room. So from walking in, from using the kit, from teaching a lesson, and he'll do that with a set of the academics that use those rooms the most, because we want to find out, are the prototype rooms suitable? Have we missed something? Will they be suitable for the type of teaching that we're doing? Because we're a creative arts university, like, just the amount of creativity that goes on in rooms, we don't want technology to limit it. We want it to enable it and improve the user experience. And hopefully when Adam's working on the UX, the first iteration of it, he'll come up with a set of themes. So, I don't know, one example might be like, you know, the lectern isn't adjustable, or, you know, the camera setting isn't right. Like, and that might be 4 out of 6 of the lecturers saying that's an issue, and then we'll address that, or if there's a functionality that's missing. So I know there's not like a certain metric that we're looking for, because we want to go into it quite open-minded. So that's where the UX thing comes out. So we get the themes from that, and then we review it, and then we're like, okay, let's look at the next iteration of it. So that's how we're approaching it. So it's quite an open conversation. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. I think taking that forward to you, Campbell, and obviously the standards that Annika mentioned that you've deployed here at Strathclyde, did you embark on a similar journey how did you engage with your stakeholders to develop that?
It was really, really difficult for us. So starting back back in the days of non-university work for me, when I was in the corporate side, we worked with a very, very powerful statement. What we were there to do was create environments for people to tell their story. And we've taken that and we've kind of developed that in how we deliver our spaces on campus. We approach academic bodies, we engage, we run the metrics of what each individual department want within a space, and yeah, we can roll that out, we can create wonderful spaces around about campus. The problem we have is if we create a space bespoke to a faculty with the way our timetabling, etc. works in here, we can't guarantee that the department's going to get it. So that spurred us off into a template-based system and a standardisation across the board. so that we could create the environments that anybody, any faculty, any external person could go in with a very small training session and actually drive their presentation, drive their lectures from those spaces. So the ethos that we have created is generic user interfaces, as we all saw on our campus walk rounds. It's the same touch panel layouts, it's the same design, same projectors. The standardization process works for people coming into it. But it works on the flip side for my team. My team now know how to work each individual item to build that system up. And if something goes wrong, heaven forbid, we can rectify it quickly. We don't need a massive storeroom because one department wants a Kramer switcher, one wants a Wirestorm, one wants an Extron. We say, this is the switcher you get. This will give you the connectivity that you want. If you want something different, we'll put that flavour into it. But we have the ability now that we have a small storeroom, a small piece of equipment that we have to change, and that's how we've driven things. So it's understanding what each faculty wants and trying to build it into the bigger picture, into a standard template to allow people to walk into spaces and use it. And that's where the strategy side of things comes in for us, is we listen to what people want. We try and embark on a journey to make that generic across the board so that anybody can use it. And that's what we've tried to do. And hopefully what you've seen over the last 3 days has reflected our vision of how we're going to deliver things going forward and breaking boundaries of geographical location. Annika there specifically said she had lots of campuses all over London. Edinburgh University, lots of campuses all over. We at University of Strathclyde have campuses not only Glasgow, Paisley, Irvine, but we're branching the Great Divide and going into Bahrain. Templates and the standardisation thing that we put into Bahrain is the same design as we have here. One of the principals at the university went across there, jumped off the plane, went in and did a senior executive presentation, walked out, jumped on the plane and came home. And the first thing he came back to me and said was, I went over, I used the AV, and it just worked. To me, that's me done my job right. I've gathered the information correctly. I've built something that everybody can use. And that statement, it just worked, finished it for me. And now we're moving on to the next project and moving forward. There we go.
So just bring that back to something you said there about gathering information. What was your approach and strategy to developing the strategy from that perspective?
What most of us do in here is what we're all good at. The AV sector just now is all about communication. It's all about talking. These events that we come to, we talk to everybody, we talk to the universities, we talk to academics. We listen to what they want. We can't always give it. We can't always give that item that they're wanting, but we can provide alternatives. Most manufacturers in here, as you'll all know, have matrix switchers. They've got USB-C, HDMI, etc. But what do we choose? We have to choose things that work for us, make it our life easy. We've got to support them at the end of the day. And I think listening to what academics want, what the faculties want, we can try and build that into the generic rooms. But if they want something special, then we look at creating the environment for them. And that's when we get involved and we try and use the standard products that we use in our portfolio to provide the environment for them. And they look after it and they manage it. But we have our input into it so that if something goes wrong inevitably, we can fix it. And that's where not just me, but the team behind me have that support model and be able to speak to manufacturers and be able to speak to other universities to find out what we can do. And that's predominantly what LTSMG is all about. It's about creating that environment for everybody to be able to talk and pull that information.
I think just touching on something else there about specialist and versus general purpose teaching space. Annika, I think the work that you're doing at UAL and the types of spaces you're trying to create there have got to cater for a lot of different creative purposes. So how are you approaching that requirement?
Yeah, so again, something that we're working on with USHAT is something that Gary's done at Google as well, that he's bringing into UAL is modularity. So because we've got so many different types of creative courses at different campuses, like honestly, I've never seen like user cases like it. Like I've worked in quite a few universities, and this one is definitely different to what I've worked in before. So what QShot and we've come up with is a room where what do you need in terms of basics, and we're looking at it in terms of each module. And then if you know, we want to add cameras in, how easy it is to add cameras. Or if we don't need cameras, how easy it is to add speakers, mics, etc. But also something that everyone's probably facing in HE now is budget constraints. So previously, you know, we've all done, you know, rolling upgrades, etc., and we're like standardized rooms, and you have the same kit in every single room. But with budget constraints, do we need that kit in every single room? And that's where the modularity comes in as well. But also it links into the type of creativity and specialist teaching, like what's actually needed in there, what will be used. So that's how we've approached it so far.
And Greg, I know you've been working closely with Annika and the team at UAL as well. What kind of reflections have you had with your engagement with them about the way that they're approaching that with their end users?
Well, I think, you know, one of the reasons that I got called in is because, you know, apart from my broader experience, is because I'm, you know, I am sort of slightly out with the, you know, the higher education space, and, you know, for me, the, you know, the threads that I try and, you know, bring to this to think about, you know, the trying to align whatever it is that we do with the wider strategy of the whole organisation, understanding what that is. And I think that, you know, what we've seen over the last couple of days with the presentations that we've had, you know, is that, you know, that we talk about strategy as a general thing, but very quickly you kind of get to the point where you've got to think about, well, what about the well-being? You know, what about diversity? What about AV over IP and so on? And you get down to that. So I, you know, for me, it feeds down from that higher level, but also, you know, talking about standards and thinking about, you know, the fact that UAL are engaging with Adam Banks, who another ex-Googler who used to run it there, is thinking about, well, first of all, you know, using the principles of human-centered design, which feeds into user experience. That actually feeds the whole thing. Principles of iterative working, you know, never being finished. But I think that you know, with the work that we do, you know, it's coming to the point where you can actually describe what you want in terms of, you know, measurable experiences. Because, you know, the problem with us all, and I count myself in that, because you know, we're technologists. You know, we're desperate to open the technology toolbox as quickly as possible. You know, and for me, the interest is in thinking about what's got to be delivered as this kind of sensory, tactile, whatever experience, and then, you know, from that to turn it into the kind of crunchy work that comes out of it.
Yeah, I think. Speaking from my own experience at my own institution, and probably many in the audience who have the same challenges, one thing that I face is looking at the university governance and actually getting people engaged in the first place. Just a question to any of you: how have you kind of found that in your experience of the challenges that you've had there?
I think I'm off on another rant again, but we had a discussion prior to this where Greg started to talk about strategy, and I was like, no, it's not that. Strategy is totally different. But reflecting on that and going back and listening to what Greg had said, it kind of made me think that, yes, I am engaging with people, but I'm not doing it in the normal way that you would acknowledge you're doing it. So a conversation over a coffee, an information gathering session, they're taking that away. It's always in the back of your mind of what people want to do. Everybody in here will know and be able to reflect on the fact that what's inside that lectern, what's inside that equipment rack is irrelevant. How we get that media from your display device or your source onto screen makes no difference at all. It's gathering the information of what people want to show and show on the screen, then we make the equipment do what they want to do. So gathering that information with academics, senior members of staff, technical staff, turning around, giving us the limitations of what we can do. AV over IP just now is massive. But, as I'm sure Jerry will agree with us, and Bruce as well, getting video over the network is a challenge. We know it's a challenge, but that's where, hopefully, what we've done with the discussions here is breaking that boundary down and understanding that we need colleagues with their skill set to try and deliver things and deliver what the academics want, what the senior members of staff want, and building that into everything. It's not an easy task we've got. We are the conduit to build down everything round about to try and get that final delivery and make people look good. Bruce made a great analogy yesterday in his conversation where he said that the cost of a student sitting on a seat there was the same as going to a Taylor Swift concert. Personally, who wants to go to a Taylor Swift concert? But when you start to think about that, and you start to think, Taylor Swift, 2 microphones, 2 this, 2 that, loads of testing. We don't have that luxury. You walk in the door, academic goes to the panel, hits on, delivers his content, walks out. We don't have a second chance. We don't have any redundancy in there. If that doesn't work, it's a catastrophe. And it's a catastrophe that snowballs down. And when it lands in my lap, I have to go back and look at my notes. Who did I speak to get that? Where was the information gathering session to get what that academic wanted? Somebody phones up and says, I wanted to do a voting session, but you've not got voting clickers. But we made the decision after looking at the market that there was an online version for that. But we didn't portray that information out to academics. So we gathered the information, created a strategy of how we were going to roll it out across the campus, but we didn't take it that final step. And I think that's where a lot of AV people, AV consultants, AV contractors, etc., get it to that 95% and do a wonderful job getting it there. But the last 5% of the final engagement of getting that information out there is where we all fall down. Yeah. And that's where the strategy building and the continuation of the communication process between the end user and the team delivering it falls down. And that's where we need to try and embrace and get the process right. And hopefully coming away from this, creating strategy processes, etc., and what we can share with the wider community will help us create that 100% journey and not the 95% one that we're doing just now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Greg or Annika, if there's anything else you'd like to add to that?
Could you remind me of the question, please?
Yeah, just about in terms of engaging and challenges that you found engaging. I know, you know, academics and sorry, I'll let you.
So when Gary and I have been working together for about 1.5 years now, specifically on AV, and the kit in some of the campuses is 12 years old and it hasn't been upgraded since it was installed. So I think that made it easier for us to engage with the academics, with seniors, because there was a real need to upgrade the kit because it just wasn't working and it was breaking. And that really helped us to build a profile. So, you know, we've done presentations with the court governors. There's regular updates on AV and what we're delivering to executive board. So we've been quite fortunate, but I think that's because the AV wasn't in the best state when we started working on it, which has helped. But it's also Gary and I, you know, there's just 2 of us in our IT department that work on AV, and I think seniors are quite they're happy that, you know, we're building with what we're building and the vision in terms of AV and where it's going. So we've been quite fortunate in terms of funding and projects that we're working on. And we've definitely built a relationship and trust there.
Fantastic. Greg?
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about one of your rants, Campbell, about how difficult it is to get the higher you go up in the food chain, the harder it is to get useful feedback. In the Cabinet Office, there's a standing joke that the shortest measurable period of time is the time between it takes a piece of AV equipment failing and a government minister complaining about it. But if the thing goes very well, and why does it go well? It's very hard to do that. So I think that, you know, there is no one size fits all, and you about how you get this feedback, but you do need it because, you know, the whole principle is about UX design is that you talk to the users, and generally honestly, in the wider AV field, that just doesn't happen, and that is something that does set HE apart. But actually, how you get to engage and then how you get it is another thing. And another basic principle there is that what someone says that they want is not necessarily what they need. So all of this work around UX, bringing in experts like Adam Banks, is really important, because it's actually a proper discipline, and properly applied, you can really glean some really very useful data from it. And it's always the thing that's kind of half surprised me about universities, because I think that by nature, by definition, you're about research and developing IP and so on. And I think that there are massive opportunities there too. And I hope that this pioneering engagement that UAL are making with the kind of the more formal, structured and thoughtful approaches to UX would mark the beginning of that.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Well, let's open it up for Q&A, comments, questions. I think we've got the catch box around somewhere. Has anybody got any questions, thoughts, comments? I've lost my right-hand man. Where's Dave gone? Oh, there he is. Oh. Right, here we go, Ben. I mean, Paul.
Yeah, I fundamentally agree that the end user feedback is absolutely critical. I wanted to ask the panel really what they thought, because we all know that academics can be slightly tricky or eccentric, shall we say. Is there a danger then if you ask 10 of them what they want in a room to make their teaching spaces better, do you get 7, 8, 9 different answers? And then how do you do all of those 7, 8, 9 things? Do you do 2 of those based on the budget you've got? How do you just make that decision about what ones you prioritize and what ones you just say, we can't do that, or that's not possible?
That's a really good question. So the way that we're approaching it with Adam Max for the UX, is he'll lead the conversation with each of them, and then he'll look at all the data, everything that they've said, and he'll pull out themes from what they've said. And he said you should start to see a theme, because as you're talking to each of them, you get their story and their whole journey of how they're teaching. So he's a professional in this, so I'm assuming he'll come up with the themes for us. And then I guess, we take that back to the AV team, and we discuss it and, come up with the priority list. And if hopefully there's quite a few themes that come out, and it's like, okay, that thing, that definitely needs to be addressed. So that's how we're approaching it.
Easiest way of doing it, you put it all in a hat and you pull the first couple out, and that gives you an answer. I think it's a very difficult thing to try and do, because everybody's got their own views and their own ways of how they want to do things, and everybody's is number one priority. Doesn't matter who they are. You need to give me what I want, not what he wants, because I'm better than him. So I think it's very, very strategic how you put together the solution and try and encapsulate as much as you can. We're never going to make everybody happy in what we do. We have to look at the spaces, look at what they're wanting, and try and make calculated decisions. We're all in financial restraints at all the universities just now, and we need to balance the finances with the delivery of what we're trying to do. So as long as we can deliver 85% of what everybody's wanting, that's better than delivering 0% of what they want. So it's just a matter of balancing up what we do, how we deliver it, and just creating that environment that works is best for everybody. And then speak to the people that we haven't been able to deliver it and explain the rationale why we had to compromise. And it has to be a compromise across universities. We can't build individual spaces for individual people. Software development, software packages that we put into all the classrooms, etc. We can put in 150, 200 pieces of software. Lauren, sitting in the audience here today, will be know exactly what I'm talking about this. They put out a poll to everybody. What software do you want on your lab build and your PC builds? And we get nothing back. You then send out a second email. You get nothing back. Then Bruce jumps in and says, look, guys, if you don't put on that list what you want, it will not be in the classroom. So it takes somebody with a senior level to come out and do that. So that's the hardest bit. Once we build it, I'll guarantee you in the first 3 weeks of teaching, Lauren's inbox will be full of people, you didn't put my software in. Didn't ask for it. It was in last year. Doesn't matter. Software changes, the way that we deliver teaching changes. So that's where the communication breaks down. But if somebody wants a bespoke room and wants something individual for them, we just listen to what everybody does and just try and build as best we can with the restraints we have. Okay?
Sure. And also, UAL are we're taking a more iterative approach to how we do upgrades. So, for example, I've just done an upgrade in one of our flagship lecture theatres in King's Cross. And it was quite a big and expensive upgrade for a whole refurb, basically. But the way that we're approaching it is we're not just going to wait 5 years to do another upgrade. We're going to look at it in summer or in a year's time and be like, okay, what's the next phase to this? Like, what have we missed? What can we improve on it? We're not just going to wait. I hope that makes sense.
The only thing I'd add to that, because those answers are great, but it's a brilliant question. But I think, first of all, it's very important that that one distinguishes between qualitative and quantitative data. And I think that another massively important thing is that people are heard and they're seen to have been heard, but they also have to understand that just because they've asked for something, they don't get it. There is some sort of crunchy stuff to be done there.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I want to ask about the AV strategy and end-user management, but there's another thing on the agenda in the coming years. It's about sustainability, and you have to consider that as well. How do you think about implementing that piece of process into your strategy?
Well, Pete, I'm visiting you next week.
You're most welcome.
Find out about sustainable AV. So we've just hired in our digital and technology department a digital net zero manager. So he's looking at, he actually just contacted me to find out about all the AV kit that we've purchased so that he can put together a whole spreadsheet of it. And then he's looking at emissions, and I think he's working with Greg actually and the governance board. I think the next topic is sustainability, so perhaps you can talk about that.
Well, I mean, the first thing I'd say to everyone is that they need to connect with Pete on LinkedIn. Pete, apart from having years of being, given of his knowledge and being very analytic about what he does, the focus on sustainnably is a massive thing. And Pete's posted a series of 12 pieces on LinkedIn, which I can't recommend highly enough. But I think the point that you're making there, Pete, is that the thing is that we're behind the curve now, and of course, there are things that you need to go through the discovery process to think about what it is that you need in strategy, you need to include within strategy. But some of them are absolute non-negotiables, and of course the sustainability thing, is there with a bullet.
From our perspective here, we obviously have already engaged with Pete, and we're quite reasonably far down the process of trying to get that sorted out. But from a procurement perspective, we've just submitted a tender out just now, and 15% of the award on that tender was based on the sustainability of the products that they were putting in. So from the financial perspective, we are paying a lot of attention to what type of products we put in, how much power they use, all the usual things, how much recycled plastic is in it. But the thing you have to be very, very, very careful is that manufacturers out there are great at fudging the figures. They're great at telling you that this product will use 0 power when it's not on. But what they do are 30% less power than they would normally have been using. But what they don't tell you is to gain that, you've got to run the screen that dull you can't see it. But it still ticks the right box. So you need to read into the small detail of each individual product and make sure that that product fits the bill for you. And when you are putting a tender out, do put a big weighting on the sustainability aspect of it and what it brings to the carbon neutral level of the university or establishment. Because in the next 5 to 6 years, that's going to go from that 15% level to 45%, because universities and other establishments are going to be measured more heavier on what sustainability and what levels that they can achieve. And not to push too much pressure onto Pete, but if you start to look at that aspect of how he gathers that information and how he shows it, makes it more realistic and makes it easier for you to tick the right box. I don't know of any other department within our university that actually is paying any attention at all to gaining that type of data and being able to show that data to everybody. So please, grab Pete before he shoots in the plane home and have a brief chat about it. It's a minefield of information that will blow your socks off, but it's something, as an AV integrators that we all are, we have to pay particular attention, because we use a lot of power and a lot of money spent on devices in these environments, so it's going to become more and more prominent.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We've got time for one
Thank
more
you for the
question.
compliment.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you for the compliments.
Fantastic. We'll go to we'll go to Marcus down at the front. Oh, Ben, sorry. Yeah, Ben.
Ben. Oh, that's far.
Oh.
Sorry, Ben. It's just a kind of a quick comment, really, because we're talking about AV strategy, but in quite specific ways. What we did at the college is kind of starting with defining what AV is and why the college needs it. It's quite a nebulous term, and different organisations have different understandings about the parameters of where AV begins and finishes within each organisation. I'm just wondering whether the panel have done any work on, and it sounds really obvious, but actually explaining to the organisations that you work for what AV is, what the scope of AV is, and what the parameters are as the start of the discussions on things like room design, sustainability, staffing, etc., etc.
I'll start with that one. That's a really, really good point. We all have space planning people around about on our campuses that turn around and tell us, oh, I want that room to be that. I want this room to be it. They're too quick at looking at 4 walls, 2 doors and say, right, 60 seats in there. Let's cram 60 seats in there, and no idea of how we're going to get the technology to work in the space. We're relatively lucky here is the fact that we get to engage with our space planning and our estates department so closely. So they do listen to us. I can't speak for any other university. I don't know how anybody else deals with that, but we have a very, very good chain of communication, as you've probably worked out, between the AV team, IT, networking, estates, etc. So we've already bridged that gap. They generally rely on us to come back and say, this is what you need, and we don't get questioned. But we've never gone back to the bare bones of you know, what is it? What are we? Bruce did touch something on it yesterday in his conversation where he had, was it Raymond, I think was his name? The IT guy with the brown overcoat. And I use that a lot in some of the conversations, is the perspective of what an AV person is. Brown overcoat, you know, loads of pockets on it, 3M in the patch, and a couple of screwdrivers or soldering iron, pushing an overhead projector. That's gone. We aren't that anymore. Our technology's superseded everything else out there. So it's getting that information across to people is very, very difficult. But I think the biggest, most important thing to take away from this is talk to people, communication, listen to what people want, give them advice, but don't be manufacturer specific or anything. Just listen to the overall part of it and give them overall information about it. As I said before, they don't need to know what's in that cupboard. They don't need to know how it gets from A to B. That's our job. We're professionals at that. All we need to do is make sure that when they walk into a space and they touch that button on the touch panel or they plug their laptop in, it works. And that's the most important part of it. So where I do see a lot of good in what we say about telling people what AV is, the AV actual aspect of it is not that important. It's the route to get from source to destination, to basically create that journey to tell the story. And it is all about telling a story. Okay.
Yeah, so at UAL we're quite fortunate because we do a lot of digital courses, etc. So we get a lot of requests for AV, so there's already a good understanding of it. And Gary and I, we've done quite a lot of comms across the university as well to like talk about the projects that we've done, what we've delivered, what's new, if we've done a prototype room, or what's coming, how to get in touch with us. I mentioned that we've done presentations to the Court of Governors, so there's like a lot of comms out there, and you know, we've got quite an open approach where we're happy for people to contact us whenever, however, etc., to get in touch. So yeah, and it also helps that Marcus has won quite a few awards for East Bank, so everyone understands and knows about AV, which helps. Thanks, Marcus. Yeah.
Well, that question, Ben, could elicit like a 4-hour uninterrupted torrent from me, because you're kind of describing a large part of my working life. I think the things that I'd say, to be quick, is that I think that the is to think about the room in the space in holistic terms is very important. You know, the reality is that we carry a raft of assumptions, a great inertia of assumptions about how you do space and how we operate. And I think having a conversation like this, you know, gives us the chance to realise that. You know, in the work that I've done with Microsoft, where people are trying to, you know, with sub €1,000 kits to get an amazing hybrid experience, you know, really does kind of emphasise how important it is to think about the, you know, the wider context of the room and all of the interdependencies that are there. But I'll stop there before you get the whole 4 hours.
I think it could be a discussion that could go long into the night. Well, that brings us to a close. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, and thank you to our esteemed panel of guests. So we will be continuing now we've resurfaced the conversation on AV strategy, and we'll be sending out some information via the mailing list to get your thoughts and ideas on what we can do and what could be useful. So please look out for that, and yeah, let us know, and we'll do our best to keep curating some content on it. So thank you very much. Thank you. Right, I guess that's us drawing to a close, sadly, very sadly. So, I've got a list of things here that we need to talk about very quickly. Should we talk about where we're going next?
Let's talk about the next one, the sequel.
The sequel, part 2.
Yeah. So, the next LTSMG event that we'd like to talk about is not the annual conference, but a fairly recently launched live event, which is a one-night stay with very much a knowledge transfer event rather than perhaps an exhibition. And we're going to be returning to Loughborough University again for this, where we successfully held, Loughborough. We successfully held the event last year in November. So save the date there, the 26th to the 27th of November this year. We'll be staying at Burley Court, and we'll be enjoying the hospitality of Loughborough University. So that's, definitely an event to look forward to. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So at this point in time, we don't have the confirmed venue for the 2026 conference. Oh. However, we're very close. We're very close. So we hope to be able to announce that fairly soon. But that's a good opportunity for me to say we're always looking for host venues. So if you've had any thoughts about maybe just being interested in hosting this fantastic conference, come and talk to one of us, any of us in the exec team. Just have an informal chat. We can tell you a bit more about what it involves hosting it, the sort of things we look for in terms of spaces and other various components of the conference. No commitment. We can just kind of let you through the looking glass, and you can get a bit more of an understanding of what goes on behind the scenes, and we can see if it's viable. But always very much welcome volunteer hosts, please. I think probably on that topic, there's, I guess, like any good production, we should do the credits. So there's quite a lot of people we'd like to say thank you to before we say goodbye to the people who've been watching on YouTube. So bear with me, because there's quite a list, and I think it's important to mention people by name as far as possible, because it's a big event with so many contributors, and there's so many people inputting into that, and really would like to thank them for all their hard work. And many people contribute to this event from the goodness of their own heart, and they're not being paid to do it. So let's shout everyone out. So let's start off with, I'll tell you what, save a round of applause to the end. All right, that's the best way. There's going to be lots of pauses otherwise, okay? So the sponsors, our sponsors who provide the exhibition and the financial support for the event, huge thank you to them. To our fantastic presenters who've given us so much great content across this conference, and in particular some very personal insights into their lives. Yourselves, delegates, our attendees, you're the community, you're the lifeblood of LTSMG, and obviously we put this conference on very much for you, so thank you for turning up. And then some of the people who've made this event happen within the city. Liam Bedwell-Howley from the Glasgow Convention Bureau and the rest of the Bureau, they've been fantastic in helping us find the various host venues for the evening entertainment. Excuse me, I need some water. I'll grab some in a minute. To the event staff, Gordon Hodge, who's helped with the conference organisation here, absolutely fantastic. And the rest of the events team, Alison Connell, Kelsey Steele, Maureen McCall, Rihanna McGee. The stores and portering team, who I have to say have been sensational. They've been delivering, some of the sponsors are nodding, they've delivered all the stuff from stores and the vans directly to the stands, which is unheard of for us. It's absolutely fantastic. So the stores team, Peter Costello, Gary Neal, Peter Linnard and Paul Swinson, huge shout out to you. Now, some people would say providing the AV for LTSMG is potentially one of the hardest gigs in the business. So a massive shout out to the fantastic AV support team here at University of Strathclyde, and in particular Matt Brown, Paul Noble, Katie Walsh, and Jose Hatchell. Thank you so much. You've provided the AV. There's fantastic colour wash here. Yeah. Notice the colours, no accident. Very nice. And the live stream going out on YouTube. To the LTSMG crew, Claire Wright, Luke Lada Maharaja. Someone said that we should get him down the front. Yeah, there he is. Adam Kingshot and Henry Palmer. The other three guys on the exec, Adam Harvey, Aaron Turlington-Smith, and Matt North. And you know what? I think we need to give a shout out to our absolutely fantastic hosts from the University of Strathclyde. Campbell Jameson, Ian McCormack, and Bruce Roger. Take a bow.
Yeah. I'll do that. Here we are, sir. Right, it's just a little job of the raffle to do, isn't there? Yeah.
Goodbye to everyone on YouTube. You can carry on with your day. Thanks for joining. The raffle.